Good evening, and I want to say, and welcome. Um, I don't know where that came from, but I am reading from The Golden Present, Daily Inspirational Readings by Swami Satchidananda, part of my sharing for 365 days, and I'm on, January 25th. And it starts with, "You should always choose peace." Okay. When anything comes to you, first ask yourself, will I be maintaining my peace by getting this, or will my peace be disturbed? Ask that for everything. People you would like to be with, possessions you would like to acquire. It doesn't matter what you want to do, strike that against the touchstone of peace. Will this rob me of my peace? If the answer is yes, you must choose peace or the other thing. You should always choose peace. If the answer is, my peace will not be disturbed by it, okay, you can have that and still have your peace. That should be our aim. Yeah, Swami Satchidananda often does speak about this in a lot of the writings and things I've seen, where he speaks about do whatever um, at all costs, maintain your peace. And what I've liked about that from my own experiences with this is that it's from that place that I feel like I'm going to make my best next right action. It also makes me think of something that's called the four locks and the four keys in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and Swami Satchidananda is known to detail these really well. And it's basically ways of maintaining your peace in the face of some different situations. And so the four locks and the four keys, I might have talked about this before, I feel like, in another reading, or another sharing like this, but I'll go through it again if I have, because it's really useful. So the four locks are happiness, there's the happy, the unhappy, the virtuous, and the wicked. And so to meet those with the keys, for the one who is happy, the key is friendliness. For the unhappy, which might be Tuna coming in here, we have compassion. Tuna, what is it? Come here. Are you okay? Yeah? Are you feeling lonely? Are you feeling unhappy? Do you need my compassion? Yeah? You need some compassion? Come around. She's being so goofy, she won't come all the way. Here, let's give some compassion if you're unhappy. All right? And then there's the virtuous, and to the virtuous, we express delight. And then to the wicked, then it is we are to express disregard or dispassion. The wicked could be also just someone who's challenging, someone who is we're basically unable to offer the other three keys to. Then we are the key to that person is to just disregard for the moment. And what I've learned in my experience with this and reading further is that those may shift. The person that we disregard in one moment, we may later be able to recognize them as unhappy and be able to have compassion for them. Another moment, we may recognize them as virtuous and then have delight. So it's initially a simple structure, but I have to admit there are parts of it that can be confusing, because if you see someone that you think is completely happy, but yet you feel like they're doing some wrong things, how can you actually have friendliness towards them? If you see someone who it appears as though they're virtuous, they've received some title, it's hard to have delight when you maybe don't agree. So possibly that's actually the person would be considered wicked. And in that moment, rather than trying to communicate with them and trying to basically rationalize, it's best to move away because you're not going to be in the right place to have an interaction that's going to be useful. So those are the four locks and four keys that help keep that sense of peacefulness and equanimity in all of our interactions. Again, it's challenging, but maybe see if there's parts in your day where that can happen. Because, there are other times when you see someone who's happy and we might feel envious, or we might feel unhappy because they're happy. Like, well, why should they be happy if I'm not happy? How can we practice having that sense of friendliness, in their moment of happiness? And then unhappy, we might actually become happy. If we see someone who's unhappy, it might actually trigger in us this feeling of like pleasure because somebody else is unhappy. And that's not leading us towards peace. So if we can allow that person to have their own experience, respond to it with this key that basically helps us keep our peace, I believe that leads us then to the next right emotion and possibly the next right action. Another thing I thought of with that is that it doesn't matter what you want to do, strike that against the touchstone of peace. So yeah, it's not saying that there's necessarily one way that something should happen, but that you test it for yourself. And when that choice is made, or that experience that you're interacting with is really investigated, and you see, well, does that help me feel peace, or is that actually agitating me because I'm getting defensive, I'm getting there's sort of some anger coming out and trying to be protective around this thing. Well, there's something to that then that's triggering something in there. And it's related maybe to yesterday's thing about status and getting some kind of reaching a certain plateau in our life. So it's not necessarily just things. By when we get these things, it's not necessarily just material, but also when we get status and we get attached to those things. It's through that attachment that disturbed mind might start to jump in, because we ultimately may lose those things. The things that we're attached to may it eventually does lead to us having to let go at some point. Had some other thoughts about where I wanted to head with that, but it's already been 8 minutes, and so I'm going to close this and trust that was enough. All right, thanks for tuning in. Tune is going to come up here, and I know to look this way now. Hi. Yeah. She looks a little teeny tuna head. Yeah. Hi. You want to say goodbye to everybody? All right. See you tomorrow.